Welcome into Birds of the Round Table. For the first time in what feels like forever, we get to come to you celebrating a victory. I almost said on a Victory Tuesday. It is not Tuesday. Merry Christmas, everybody. Welcome into the show. We're off schedule a little bit this week. We've had sickness amongst our hosts. We've had all kinds. I'm moving right now. It's just been a huge mess of holidays, but we're excited to hop on and talk about the Eagles tonight. Joined as always by my man David. Give him a follow on Twitter at PHL Eagle News. Be sure you check out his written work at PhillyCoverCorner.com. David, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great, man. Finally getting over a long, lengthy illness. It's my second day with no fevers, so I'm doing a lot better than I have been. So I was actually glad that this was pushed back a couple of days so we could all be healthy and happy to do this. Aside from Ryan, who we miss dearly.
Yes. All right. I was about to say R.I.P. I was about to say R.I.P. Ryan. Not starting any rumors here. Ryan will be back with us.
Yeah, he's a healthy scratch.
He's a healthy scratch today. Game day inactive for personal reasons is what was listed on the injury report. So
he's our quiz. He's our quiz this week.
Yeah, but fortunately for the show, we called Dibes up from the practice squad. Give him a follow on Twitter at Mr. Crockpot. He was hanging out with his buddy Greg Ward on the practice squad. Dibes, how are you doing tonight?
I'm better now, man. I'll tell you, I went through the worst flu and sickness throughout Christmas I've ever had. And I remember watching the Eagles-Giants game in bed with one eye open because I could barely see the TV screen because everything's moving and swishing. And it was crazy. But happy to talk about a W. We're going to break it down. We're going to get to the Cardinals game. I'm going to try and be positive today. It is Christmas week. So sorry, guys. Bad vibes Dibes is not in the house. We're going to be positive.
All right. Well, I mean, there's lots to be positive about when Jonathan Gannon is bringing his Cardinals into Lincoln Financial Field. We get a Sunday game at 1:00, uncharted territory. You guys, you listeners out here, be sure you set an alarm in your phone to remind you the Eagles actually play a 1:00 game on a Sunday. It hasn't happened since like week 9, I think. So that'll be exciting to watch. If you are watching live, be sure you drop us a comment here. Let us know what you guys are thinking about the Giants game, looking ahead to the Cardinals, all that stuff. We love to interact with you guys on the show here live. So let's start off and let's talk about the Eagles' first win in a month. They beat the Giants. It got a little sweaty at the end. They win 33-25 in a game that it wasn't as close as the scoreboard said, but again, I mean, there was a throw into the end zone on one of the last plays of the game. So you can say it's not as close as the box score shows, but it's pretty close there at the end. But the Eagles do get the win. Courtesy of the Dallas loss, the Eagles do control their own destiny for the division. There's some things up in the air for 1 or 2 seed. 1 seed's exceedingly unlikely, but the Eagles should be able to host a playoff game if they take care of business. David, what was your biggest takeaway from the game against the Giants?
I guess on a positive note, they put up 465 yards of offense, which was good. But I think I feel more like the players in the locker room after the game where even though they won, it almost still felt like a loss. It was very discouraging on some levels. And the main reason for me was they just cannot put any teams away. The game was headed towards a rout, but yet again, they find a way to shoot themselves in the foot. And they have been doing this all season. They lost to the Jets because of it. They lost to Seattle because of it. They almost lost to the Giants. They let teams hang around by committing just a comedy of errors. They're always just doing things that you can't even script this stuff, like running into one another with Oz and Boston Scott. Then Goddard falling down on a play that would have been a pass that went right into his gut, even though 90% of Twitter went crazy on Jalen Hurts after that play. But I mean, it was just yet another, just a random thing that keeps happening. And until they get more disciplined and stop committing penalties and having these turnovers and their inability to score in the red zone, they're not going to put any team away. Right. And it's going to be like this week in and week out. And they're good enough to beat anybody if they can clean all of this up. But they're also bad enough to lose to anybody when they kept letting these types of things linger.
Yeah. This is a game that you could tell me to feel either way about. Offense puts up 465 yards. Jalen Hurts throws for over 300 yards for the first time since October. And I mean, the offense put up 33 points, and they did it while kicking 4 field goals, one from the 26, one from the 25. I think it was the 10 and the 3.
Right.
You left a lot of points. You have the pick 6 where you're in scoring territory. That takes at least 3 points off the board. You have the possession that's gone because of a fumble on a kick return. Like, the offense generally seemed to function well, but on the flip side, I still see the issues they have handling the blitz. And I put out all 22 today, just talking through those issues. And it's just concerning to me that this is still where we're at. Like, I remember doing an all 22 breakdown from week 1 of last year against the Lions, talking about how the Eagles didn't have answers to the blitz. And I was like, but it's week 1, Jalen's first full year's starter. They'll get this ironed out. And we're sitting here in December of the next season still talking about it. We're about to roll into our 3rd calendar year of this. And I just don't understand. Like, I don't think coaches are stupid. Like, I think they know when you go empty and the other team rushes 6, someone is coming free. I just don't understand. I don't understand why there's not answers for that. And I'm a huge proponent of empty. Like, you can go search the word empty on my Twitter timeline, and I will be glowing about the Eagles using empty. The problem is, if you can't get an answer for that, what teams are going to do in the playoffs is anytime you go empty, they're going to send 6, and they know you don't have an answer. So that's a big thing that I need to see from the Eagles. So again, like I said, the running games kind of gets going. They use pistol a lot, which I thought was really interesting, and I've been calling for that. They threw an under center play action pass. Been calling for that. They did a lot of things right. They moved the ball well. It was the Giants, and there are still some fundamental issues that I see. And I was hoping you get the win, you get their swagger back. That obviously hasn't happened from the AJ Brown quotes and things like that. So hopefully they can hopefully they roll this weekend and they can get that swagger back. Dibes, what did you think? What was your big takeaway from the game?
I agree. There were some really frustrating parts in this game, like clock management, game management, the fumble to start in the 3rd quarter, and then the pick 6 and things like that. Situational stuff for the Eagles continues to be just a thorn in their side. But for me, I'm going to, again, try and stay positive. I'm going to go with a guy in the secondary that I thought more than held his own, and that's Keely Ringo. We have butchered James Bradbury on this show. It is absolutely time to continue to roll the dice with Keely Ringo on the outside. He was targeted 3 times in coverage. He allowed 2 passes, but those receptions were a grand total of 9 yards and 0 first downs. He also had the interception. And for tackles, he's the youngest player on the current Eagles roster. 51 snaps against the Giants, 32 against the Seahawks. He's CB2. He's been playing in a variety of looks, straight up nickel, big dime package, 3 safeties, 3 corners, you name it, man. I think his athleticism has popped the last 2 weeks. There's been times I remember going through the draft process where we questioned whether he was a corner, whether he was a safety. I think he's showing in his coverage ability that the flashes are there for both. So I've been very impressed with Keely Ringo. Like, listen, he's been largely untested. He's being going up against backup quarterbacks, but it's an encouraging start. I want to see more. And what do you guys think about Keely Ringo?
I think Ringo should be your starter opposite Darius Slay when he comes back. And you think about the defense, like they started using some big dime looks with Sidney Brown on the field. They would bump James Bradbury into the slot as well. So you had James Bradbury and Sidney Brown as like your slot corners on opposite sides. You think about getting Avonte Maddox and Darius Slay back, like you could reasonably have a pretty talented secondary. If Slay comes back healthy, regardless of what people want to say about Slay this year, I think he's played pretty well. He hasn't fallen off a cliff in terms of his athleticism like James Bradbury has. And so the thing about Ringo is teams have come into this with the idea that they want to target James Bradbury, which is very telling. Ringo hasn't had a lot of targets. when Slay comes back, Ringo's going to be targeted more. And I think when Ringo gets targeted more, he's going to give up plays. He's going to get flagged for penalties because I still think he's a little too handsy through route stems sometimes. I think that tendency to panic a little bit when the ball's coming your way, I could see that being there. And that's the sword, that's the sword that you live and die by when you're playing rookie corners. That's something that they have to develop out of. But I like what I've seen from him. I would absolutely put him on the field opposite Darius Slay in a playoff game tomorrow.
Yeah, there's our poll. Ringo with 83% of the votes, 2,500 votes. Ringo, man, James, there's enough data, there's enough evidence to suggest it's just time to see what works and move on from James Bradberry. Give me Kelee Ringo all day.
Yeah, David, what are your thoughts on how do you stack this cornerback room up when Darius Slay comes back?
The same way y'all did. I would have Ringo on the outside. I do agree with what you said that, and it's a shame, but he isn't being targeted because when they need to win, they're going after Bradberry. And even the Giants did. I don't remember what it was. They were at 4 for 4 against him in the fourth quarter for like 40 yards, 35 yards, something like that. I mean, they went straight after him. They just like Drew Lock did the week before. So it is very troubling because I'm not 100% confident that they will have him on the outside in a playoff game. You get Avonte Maddox back, it might be Slay and Bradberry out there, and they'll be doing the same thing. But I don't know. I mean, I don't see how anybody has watched Ringo play and on that staff and doesn't believe that he should be the starter going forward, though.
Yeah, on the Giants' final drive, 87 of the 92 passing yards for Seattle on their game-winning drive against Bradberry. The Giants' drive, obviously aided by a penalty, but the Giants had 34 passing yards on their final drive. You want to guess how many of them were targeting James Bradberry?
All of them.
All 34.
Yeah,
they threw 5 incomplete passes not counting spikes on the final drive. You want to guess how many of those were targeting Bradberry?
How many?
Zero. None.
0. Every completed pass on the final drive targeted Bradberry, and every incomplete pass targeted somebody else. So it's not as simple as that, but it's very clear that teams have he's the guy that they're circling right now.
Yeah.
So let's go to some comments here real quick. Todd on Facebook says that Debo said Bradberry is trash. To be fair, Bradberry was an all-pro when Debo said that. He's just clearly lost a step this year. Debo's just a sore loser. What are your thoughts on Sirianni losing the locker room? What do you guys make of like the exchange? So window into my life, I was watching the game at home by myself, and my wife and kids were at my in-laws' house for Christmas. And so I went over there after the game and post game, and my wife was like, "What was Sirianni so mad about on the sideline?" I was like, "I have no idea. I'll have to like look through look at his post game presser later." And really no answers came from that. What do you guys make of that? Is that a big deal? Is it not a big deal? David, what do you think?
I don't think it's a big deal at all. And I think it's very dangerous to try to even read what anybody is doing on the sideline, trying to read what A.J. Brown is thinking or what Washburn and Sirianni were arguing about. It's much the same way that I look at somebody at a funeral that isn't crying. That doesn't mean they're not sad. I just don't put any stock in anything like that. A lot of these blow-ups happen on the sideline, and they have forever. It's just that there is 75 cameras recording everything now, and they're never going to miss that like they used to. But it seemed much ado about nothing to me. I don't know that he's so much as losing the locker room, but I will say his locker room bravado is farly decreased than it used to be. Even in this game, it was a very odd celebration in the locker room because nobody was happy, and he couldn't do anything to rah them up. Like it was a little odd. And someone, I don't remember who it was, it may have been Reuben Frank, suggested they should have given Ringo a game ball or do something for his first pick just to try to get the mood going in there. But I don't think he's losing it, but there are definite issues because nobody is happy. And for him to have to come out and say, "Oh, we're all happy when we win," you shouldn't even have to say that. That shouldn't be something that you have to come out and do. So I don't think he's losing it, but it is definitely a very different and subdued locker room than it was a year ago at this time.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully, winning cures all. Hopefully they can go get a blowout win each of the next 2 weeks and roll into the playoffs feeling good. Let's go to a few more comments here. Got Patrick chiming in from Facebook. Welcome to the show, Patrick. Glad you're here. Drew said that it's definitely good to get Ringo some time, but he's still raw. There isn't really a better option. Eli Ricks seems to be more natural on the outside. I'm not sure if that comment means that Ricks is more natural outside than Ringo, which I wouldn't necessarily agree with. I think he's saying that Ricks is more natural outside than in the slot, which I certainly do agree with. I think Eagles fans are out more on Ricks than they should be because he was put in a position to fail. He's not a slot corner. He was just stuck there because there were so many injuries. So if you're an Eagles fan that feels out on Ricks, give the guy a chance. I do think he's got a chance to be a good outside corner in the league.
How close is Avonte Maddox to being on the football field?
I think this week.
Yeah, he was a full participant in practice prior to the Giants game, but he didn't play. So as was Slay, right? Slay was full participant as well, if I remember correctly.
Slay definitely will not play this one from what I saw online, but I do think Maddox is going to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Slay should play until maybe play him a quarter in week 18 or something, but I wouldn't play Slay. I would like to see Maddox kind of work back in since he hasn't played all year. But
agreed. Yeah.
Anyways, from Facebook, y'all love. I mean, nobody here is throwing players under the bus. We're just talking about what people are talking about. So
I think we've been pretty nice tonight.
Yeah, I mean, okay, maybe we've thrown Bradbury under the bus a little bit, but
even that.
Yeah. From Twitter, Manuel says, I think the scheme doesn't help Bradbury. He's 100% not a manned corner at the age he's at. Yeah, I mean, he's lost a step. That's purely it. He's a 30-plus-year-old corner. When decline comes, it comes fast. The deep speed's just not there anymore. And that is why I think you could still use him in the slot where he's a little more protected. Drew says the pass rush isn't shielding his deficiencies either. That's absolutely correct. I mean, coming into this game, the Giants were averaging giving up 5 sacks a game over the last 6 games, and the Eagles sacked him one time for 2 yards, and that's just not good enough. So, yeah, Avonte Maddox news is good news, says Todd. So anything else that you guys have that stuck out to you in this one before we move on? Dibes, you got anything else?
Just going back to the Nick Sirianni thing, I'm not worried about it. Losing shows character. And that's what's kind of shocking about this Eagles team. They lose or they frustrate you in just such a myriad of ways, whether it's bad play calling, bad time, truly bad timing with false starts and different penalties. We've seen their issues in the red zone. I feel like this season it's just been one thing after another, that we've just complained about all season long. And when you look at the grand scheme of the offense, they're on pace to break some records. So there is that, but I still believe this team is too talented in the trenches, especially on the offensive line. AJ Brown, I still believe him and Jalen Hurts will figure it out. I still believe that they'll get DeAndre Swift going come playoff time. So maybe those are my Eagles colored glasses on right now, or my Eagles Santa hat on right now. But for me, I still believe in this team. This team is just too talented. They've been there before. There's just a monkey on their back. Like David said, it doesn't matter who they're playing, because when you're, throwing pick sixes and guys are slipping on the field, and you're dragging your feet inbounds when you should be running out of bounds, bonehead plays like that, they kill you, man. And we've seen that all season long. If the Eagles can get it together, and we're not going to learn anything these next 2 weeks, let's be frank, but if they can get it together and take care of themselves, they should be fine come playoff time. But they haven't shown any reason for us to believe, truthfully, that they can turn it around, because they've just been in this funk.
Yeah, and I mean, that's a good point. There's nothing they can do the next 2 weeks that will really make you feel better, because it is, the Cardinals and the Giants, 2 teams that are slated to have top 6 picks. But they can get some of that momentum. If Hassan Reddick heats up, he's a very hot and cold player. If, the offense starts to go off, like if AJ Brown looks happy, just be happy. Like, let's get this team celebrations going. I think that goes a long ways. And so hopefully they're able to find that stride here. We've got another comment on Twitter. Do you think, from Alexander Perry, you think Jordan Davis plays too many snaps? So this is an interesting thing with the pass rush. He says, he's been pretty quiet in the second half of the season.
By the way, great avatar. Hollow Knight is one of my favorite games of all time.
Nice. And you look at so Jalen Carter in this game only played 21 snaps. Jordan Davis played 32 snaps. And I do think these guys are hitting a bit of a wall. And you could call it a rookie wall for both, because Jordan Davis spent half of his rookie season hurt. Both of these guys have never played this many snaps in their life in a season. Neither has Josh Sweat. Josh Sweat's already at a career high. I think Hassan Reddick, he's just shy of a career high right now. And that's an issue that, I talked about 2 months ago, that they needed to get this rotation going. They didn't do it. I think you're seeing the effects of that right now. And there's not an easy answer other than get the rotation going more now. And I think that's something that they would like to do. But then you get, you've got so many linebackers hurt. All of a sudden you've got Nolan Smith playing off-ball linebacker instead of spelling Josh Sweat. You've got, all of these sorts of things going on. Brandon Graham played a lot of snaps. It was a season high snap total for him in this week. But I do think they've got to rest these guys up a little bit and get, a bye week would do wonders, sadly, because they didn't take care of business in Seattle. I think that's off the table. Could the 49ers lose to the Commanders or the Rams? Yeah, but I don't think that's real likely. So your best case scenario is you probably hope for a 2 seed and to play home games in the playoffs, but I don't think a break is coming for these guys.
Yeah.
So, All right, let's go to a couple more comments and then we'll turn the page to the next game. Great team and go Eagles. A big fan of the Eagles. Kick the Cardinals' butts from Little Griffith on YouTube. Fingers crossed for that. There's a rumor that upper management is meddling in the play calling. Is there any truth to that? Every time something goes wrong with the Eagles, there's rumors about upper management. So I don't know about that. Would you rather be the Eagles or the Chiefs? Interesting question. Would you feel better if you're the Eagles or the Chiefs right now, David?
The Eagles.
Eagles?
Yeah, I would. Yeah. Yeah, I don't like the way that Andy has ignored the wide receiver position over there. It reminds me of the Donovan McNabb days with the Philadelphia teams when he was here, and I think it's a bigger hole to get out of than they're going to realize. Once you get down to that level, it's not the easiest to get out of. And their offensive line has caused a lot of hits on Mahomes, and he's starting to look human, whereas he never has before. So, yeah, I would take the youth of Jalen Hurts, the receivers, the O-line, but I might be in the minority. But, yeah, I would take the Eagles if I had to pick a team to start building from right now.
Yeah, I would too. Like, at least Jalen has people he can trust. Like, who can Mahomes throw the ball to that he trusts besides Travis Kelce, who seems to have lost a step anyways? I'd definitely rather be in the Eagles position here. Ryan Reese from Facebook. That name sounds familiar. Either of you guys know him? Says,
might have once or twice.
Yeah, says Birds of the Round Table is the best show out there. It would be if you were here with us, Ryan. It would be if you were here with us. So on that note, let's turn the page to the Eagles matchup with the Arizona Cardinals. This is a big game, right? You got Jonathan Gannon coming back into the link. Yeah, pew, pew, pew. So lots of things to talk about. So let's dive into it here. Let's talk our top matchups to watch. All right, let's dive into it. Our top matchups to watch on Sunday. Again, Sunday at 1 o'clock. Put it in your calendar. You're going to turn it on Monday night and realize you missed the game. David, what's your top matchup to watch?
I went with the Eagles pass rush versus the Cardinals O-line. You just touched on some of the things I was going to speak on, but like the fatigue that Reddick and Sweat are facing, it's very real. Like you mentioned, Sweat has played a career high 771 snaps. It's by far his career high. Last year he had 587, and his production was off the charts because of the rotation. Production is down with Reddick as well, and he is on pace to have the most snaps of his career after the next couple weeks. But Reddick is still making plays, but Sweat hasn't. And he needs to turn it up. And this is the type of team that allows for him to do such a thing. He needs to be probably more on a pitch count for the next 2 weeks in order to maximize that. I would like to see a heavier rotation, like you said. And Nolan Smith would be the guy to do that. And like you said, they had him at off-ball linebacker. But if they're going to keep using Brandon Graham inside like they did to spell Jalen Carter all these snaps this past week, they're going to have somebody come on the outside. And the reason you drafted Nolan Smith 30th overall was to go after the quarterback. It was not to try to set, at off-ball linebacker and not be able to do a lot of things that he's being asked to do there because it's just not what he is supposed to do. The pass block win rate for Arizona is 19th in the league, so that bodes well for the Eagles. They've given up 40 sacks already this year. Their first 2 picks should be Joe Alt and Cooper B, in my opinion, because their line is not the best. But it's whoever the commenter was earlier talking about the pass rush isn't helping anybody, and they're exactly right. And they're going to have to do it. But a lot of it, I think, just has to come down to the fact that they're just not fresh. And they had all these bodies last year. And we got rid of Derek Barnett that nobody speaks about. And we all rejoiced because we thought, oh, that's going to mean Nolan Smith is going to take all this, 25 extra snaps at edge game. But that's not what's happened. So Patrick Johnson, I don't know how much he sees the field, but it's rare to none. I mean, he's not doing anything on the edge. So you're looking at a 2-man front there on the edges, and Sweat hasn't had a sack all the way back since Dallas, the first game on November 3rd. And that's a real issue. So to me, that is what they paid for. They paid for their lines. They paid for production. If they're going to win these downs and get off the field on third, this is how they have to do it, with a 4-man pass rush. And another thing that they done, and I saw you touched on it, I was writing about it a couple of days ago, was this stuff that they do with Shaquille Leonard, bringing him up to the line, making it look like he's going to blitz, and then he runs backwards 5 yards, and he stands in no man's land, and he's not productive. It's not doing anything. And they never actually rush him, ever. So there is no threat. So you're just wasting him. And then he goes running backwards, like I said, into no man's land. And I just don't understand it. You either just roll with your 4 and quit getting cute and doing all these things, because outside of the usage that they're doing there with Leonard, he actually looks really good. And I think he's played really well, but that's just a waste. And I know that they're trying to do anything to try to ramp up the pass rush, but that isn't one way to do it. So it's just completely unproductive.
Yeah, can I'll drop this on you here. So when you watch all 22, you get lost in it because you don't have a scoreboard or anything. You kind of get lost in down and distance. And every once in a while, as the camera pans, you'll see the marker and you can see, okay, this is 2nd down. And as I was watching this game, I just started playing a game with myself where it's like, oh, Shaq Leonard is on the line of scrimmage. He's going to bail into coverage. This must be 3rd down. And almost every time it was. But the last drive of the game, Shaq Leonard on all 7 plays that weren't spikes or the Hail Mary lined up on the line of scrimmage. And on all 7 plays, he bailed out into coverage. You know how many times Shaq Leonard rushed the passer?
Zero. None.
Actually, one.
Yeah, I didn't see any. Yeah.
You know what the result of that play was? Shaq Leonard sacked Tommy DeVito. The one sack was Shaq Leonard. The one time, now it was not a good pass rush rep. It was like some stunts and things, and forced it right into him. So, not saying he should rush the passer more, but I did think it was funny that you're paying all these edge rushers, and you rush Shaq Leonard one time, and he got a sack. So funny. All right, David. I just asked David. Dibes. We got to change your nickname, Dibes. Starts the same letter. Don't like it. Ryan says that the Cardinals have the worst rush defense. Give me lots of Swift, baby. I don't know. Do you have anything you might want to say about that as far as your matchup to watch?
Yeah, David touched on the defensive line and getting off the field. I'm going to touch on the Eagles' rushing attack, and staying on the field. Nothing would make us happier than to see the Eagles finally figure out how to put teams away. Last week, the Cardinals came in allowing nearly 140 yards per game on the ground, and they were straight up gashed by the Chicago Bears for 250 yards on 39 attempts. That's 6.4 yards per carry. This rushing defense for the Cardinals is dead last in rushing yards allowed per game, dead last in rushing first downs allowed per game. That's an area where the Eagles were God tier in 2022. They're not nearly as good as they were in 2023 in terms of rushing first downs per game. And the Cardinals are 31st in rushing DVOA. They've had multiple injuries scattered throughout their defense. If this was a game, the Eagles can finally start using some of that good energy that we saw from Swift against who we just play? Just drew a blank.
The Giants.
The Giants, who we just played against the Giants. I mean, I thought there were some good things we saw from Swift last week. I think this is the week. Last week you saw the Eagles finally feed Swift a little bit, and we've been saying that on the show. Not necessarily like giving him 30 plus carries, but the facts are when they give Swift the ball, when they give him touches, they win, man. The past two seasons, when the Eagles the Eagles' top running back gets more than 75 yards since 2022, the Eagles are 13-0. And the bad thing is Swift has only gotten 75 rushing yards or more 5 times this year. So I thought we saw a nice little trend there from the Eagles in that Giants matchup. Hopefully this is the start of a good trend, a positive trend in the right direction. Again, trying to keep the show positive for DeAndre Swift and this Eagles offensive line. You look and think back to, weeks 2 and 3 when DeAndre Swift was getting like 20 yards, 20 carries per game. He was getting like 152 yards. You look at the losing streak, he was just getting 11.7 carries per game. So hopefully this is a move in the right direction, get a little more balance in this Eagles offense. That way they can kind of be more efficient, get more rushing first downs, get Jalen Hurts and these playmakers in better second and third and manageables to kind of open up the offense just a little bit, use the run to set up the pass. So give me the Eagles rushing attack this one. There's no reason they shouldn't have at least 150 rushing yards in this one. And DeAndre Swift, looking for a big game from him.
All right, big game for DeAndre Swift. To your point, one of the things I thought the Eagles did that opened that up a lot was using pistol more. They were in pistol for 18 snaps against the Giants, by far their highest mark of the season.
Was it all in the second half?
Do what?
Was it all in the second half?
A majority of it, not all of it, but most of it was in the second half. Yeah. And they averaged 0.28 EPA per play out of pistol versus 0.029 EPA per play out of pistol. So roughly they were basically 10 times more efficient operating out of pistol in this game. So that's obviously that's something I would like to see them continue to do. It opens up your play action game more. It disguises. It doesn't give the tell of like, oh, the run's going to go to the left because the running back's on the right. Like, I think it opens up a lot of things for you. So I was encouraged to see them fleshing that out. For me, my matchup to watch is the Eagles secondary against the Cardinals offense. Now, the Cardinals offense isn't great, right? We all know that. But they do have Kyler Murray back. Kyler Murray's an explosive athlete. Mobile quarterbacks have always given the Eagles a bit of an issue. But the bigger thing I want to talk about is the receiver matchups. You've got Marquise Brown, who I think has been an underwhelming NFL player. I remember back in his draft, he was being linked to the Eagles a lot. And I was so anti the Eagles taking Marquise Brown He came from OU. I was an OU guy. I did not think he would translate well to the NFL. Now he's done better than I thought he would, but he's not like a marquee guy. But he ran a 4.27 40, and we've already talked about James Bradbury and his having lost a step. And you've got Rondell Moore, who ran like a 4.32 40. These are fast guys. They are shifty guys. And you've got, you look at the Eagles cornerbacks, Keely Ringo. Keely Ringo's fast. He doesn't have a lot of lateral agility. Eli Ricks is the same way. James Bradbury isn't fast, nor does he have a lot of lateral agility. So tackling's been an issue at times this year. I think there's a universe where the Cardinals are able to really work the Eagles underneath with these two-way goes, these option routes out of the slot. The Eagles struggle to tackle and then beat you over the top with some explosive plays to these downfield threats. So that's the big thing for me to watch. Can the Eagles defense tackle well? Can they stay disciplined, and can they keep these receivers in front of them? I think it's one of the key matchups in this one. So, all right, let's go to a few more comments here, and then we'll get our predictions. Manuel says Barnett caught a lot of heat, sometimes warranted, but I think he was serviceable in rotation. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Is Matt Patricia going to turn the defense around before we get to the playoffs?
No.
I mean,
it's all on the offense. It's all on the offense getting their stuff. And that's why I went the rushing offense, because I want to see this team be able to force themselves upon the Arizona Cardinals defensive line. Like, I want to see them get a lead in the first half, and I want to see the Eagles, even though the Cardinals defense knows they're going to run the ball straight up the gut, I want to see the Eagles be able to cement their will and be physical on the line again. We haven't seen that, man, like especially in 4 quarters. So that's what I want to see. It's all on the Eagles offense trying to get back, not saying they need to be gods here, but like we need to see them be efficient. We need to see them dominate in those third downs. We need to see them have more slants. We need to see them be great at something other than the tush push, essentially.
Yeah. It's all on the onus is on the offense. The defense needs to be average, and that's the blueprint here. We've got Amy on Facebook says, "Hey everyone." Alexander says that Dibesy thinks it might be a trap statistic because the Eagles have been playing from behind a lot and being forced to pass, which is true. You can always get into some of that with run splits and things. Philly Sports Alliance on Facebook, you love to see it. It says best show in Philly. I'm sure he's not biased in any way, but we will agree with him there. So, all right. Well, that gives our matchups to watch. Let's talk now about our Eagles player of the game and score predictions. All right, let's dive into our predictions. Dibes, I'll throw it to you first here. Give me your player of the game prediction and your score prediction. What do you got?
Looking at my week 14 prediction, it was the Eagles D-line. I was looking for this Eagles D-line to get back to getting home. Week 15, it was the Eagles O-line. I was looking for this Eagles offensive line to finally kind of, show that they're the dominant offensive line in the NFL. That's not stopping here. Jeff Stoutland is going to be my player of the game in this one, so to speak. I need to see this Eagles offensive line push people against the Arizona Cardinals. If they can't push the Arizona Cardinals defensive line around just a little bit, we've got bigger issues. That means there's something else going on because all the signs indicate that the Eagles should be able to get highly efficient yards on the ground. So I'm going to go in general, the Eagles offensive line. I expect Swift to have a big day. Not saying he's going to go over 200 yards, but I'll say Eagles win 31-13 and maybe, just maybe we'll see AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts singing "Kumbaya" on the sideline, and maybe Eagles fans will crack a smile as well.
There you go. There's the bold prediction of the week. Eagles fans will crack a smile. All right, David, give me your player of the game prediction. Bonus points if you make it a player, not a coach, like Dibes tried to do, and your score prediction.
Well, I think y'all touched on it earlier. The formula to winning is they're going to have to score 30 and give up 20. And that's the formula going forward. That's kind of the way I see all the scores of their games going. Arizona is 9th in the league with a 72% running back run block win rate. Their running backs average 5 yards a carry, but that's about the only thing they do good. They're 32nd in EPA per play, 32nd in the league in success rate, 32nd in series conversion rate, 32nd in points per drive, yards per drive, and touchdowns per drive. These are the teams you bury. But unfortunately, I don't think that they're going to. I still think it's a win. I still think that, at the end of the day, you might look at the score and it might look easy. But I'll go with 34-20. But I don't think a team like this should be able to score 20 on this defense. I think they're too talented to be giving things like that up. But everything that you mentioned as far as the, receivers and everything are going to cause them a lot of problems, I think. They are shifty. They are hard to get down. And it's going to, be one of those kind of games where they probably don't put it away until the fourth quarter again. Maybe they have a 7-point lead, but the highlight for me is going to be A.J. Brown. He is going to get 150 yards, and it's going to be everything Dobbs just suggested on the sideline. They're going to be high-fiving. They're going to be laughing. It's going to be a good time in Philadelphia at 1 o'clock. Plus, he likes playing those 1 o'clock games. He put up like 170 against Washington on the 1 o'clock game. So maybe he just needs to get to the action earlier and not wait for 8 p.m. anymore. I don't know. But yeah. I expect a big game from him, 34-20 Eagles.
That was their last 1 o'clock game too, by the way.
I was about to say, the real winners of the game are us old people who finally enjoy a 1 o'clock game for the first time in a long time.
Yeah. As I start yawning.
Fuck you.
All right. Well, I actually, no joke, was going to pick 31-13 as my score prediction, but I can't use the same one Dibes did. So I'll say, I was like, well, do I say I'm more or less confident in the offense? I think I've got a good beat on the offense. I'll just be less confident in the defense. So I'll go 31-17 for my score prediction. And I'm going to take Jalen Hurts as my player of the game. I was going to take DeAndre Swift, but then Dibes was like, I'm going to take Jeff Stoutland and the entire offensive line and by proxy the entire running game. So I was afraid he would overrule me if Swift has a great game. Be like, no, that was me. So I'll take Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts coming off the first 300-yard passing game since October. He didn't scramble a ton. I tell you, he looked healthy as a runner, chasing down the cornerback on that pick six and horse collaring him. So love to see that effort. Love to see him flying downfield. So give me Jalen Hurts, 31-17 Birds. The William on YouTube, the William. Not a Will. The William says Eagles 35, Cardinals 17. Ryan says 34-17 Eagles. Swift is the MVP. Alexander wants you to be so right on your score prediction, Dibe. So and I do too. 31-13. That'd be great. So yeah. That's going to about do it here for this episode of Birds of the Round Table. Let's throw it around the horn here. David, I'll throw it to you first. Any final thoughts? And plug your stuff, man. What do you got going on?
Only final thoughts I have, we said you can't learn much the last 2 weeks, but one thing they could do is keep adding little wrinkles to the play calling on the offense. Like you had mentioned with the pistol formations. They did that coming out of the bye week when they started using different personnel going for receivers when they first got Julio Jones and Dallas Goedert went down using different personnel packages. And if for no other reason, just to put it on tape, give some of these playoff teams, whoever they're going to face, something else to think about, some different looks. So I would like to see that, if nothing else. It's about the only thing that they can do that would excite me as far as, putting up points on this would be in the method in which they do it. As far as everything else, I got a new piece on Josh Sweat on Philly Sports Network and Metro Philly paper, just about everything, how he's overcome injuries and everything to get to where he is in the NFL. He suffered a pretty devastating injury back in high school where he almost risked losing his leg. So he's we want him to get less snaps, but he wants to get snaps all the way through February, man. He's reeling to go. He's struggled a little bit, but I think he will be able to turn it around come playoff time. They just got to give the guy a little bit of rest.
All right. You guys be sure you're following David on Twitter. Great follow. Check out his written work at phillycovercorner.com. He's one of the best Eagles writers out there. Be sure you are checking him out. Dives, you're up, man. Any final thoughts? I know you're releasing draft content now. Plug all your stuff, man.
Oh man, final thoughts. Let's hope for a nice, easy lemon squeezy victory on Sunday against the Cards. Most importantly, for the love of God, stay healthy, and stay healthy. That's what we want to see. Plugs. I've been putting out a lot of draft content lately. Ironically, this is my first live show in a week, and that was a safety ranking, our top 10 safeties. that was right before I went down. We are wrapping up. We've been doing positional rankings. We're wrapping up our positional rankings with defensive tackle. That'll be going down this weekend, I think. Ryan, let me know. And then getting ready for Michigan versus Alabama, Texas versus Washington. There'll be a lot of content on that for sure. Individual scouting reports, I've been putting out about 5 per day since I've been feeling better. So I'm going to try and hit everybody on my path to God knows how many prospects. I'm trying to get to 50. I only started them like a week ago. So I'm going to try and get to 50 by the end of my Christmas break, which means Monday. So if there's a favorite prospect you have, go check on the channel. It's out there. I'm going to start publishing and promoting them on Twitter at Mr. Crockpot. And then that's all going to funnel into my big boards and bigger videos and different things like that as we get ready for the Senior Bowl. So, guys, thank everyone for watching.
Yeah, absolutely. Be sure you check out Dive stuff. He's been grinding the draft since, I don't know, the night after the last draft ended. So be sure you check out his stuff. I will be making use of it to play catch up after the NFL season's over, as I always do. So be sure you're following these guys.
What you do is you steal my guys and then claim them as yours and piss me off every single year.
I just get your big board and I put them one higher on mine just to mess with you. I put out an all 22 video today. It went out on Twitter throughout the day. The link to the whole video is on those. The whole video is also on Twitter if you want to scroll back through it. But it's like 38 minutes. I went through the Eagles offense from this game and looked at some of the stuff, some of the issues with the blitz, some things that worked really well. So you guys can go check that out if you want on Twitter, YouTube at Shane Half NFL. My final thought is simply this. I want the Eagles to play that so badly over the PA system. Field be hilarious. Let's go pants Jonathan Gannon. I can't even say on national television because it's a 1:00 game, but take the Cardinals down, get the swagger back, and then roll into the Giants in week 18. So we will catch you guys next week on Tuesday night, back on our normal time, celebrating an Eagles victory over the Arizona Cardinals. You guys be sure you tune in next Tuesday at 8:00. We'll see you guys then.